In this video, we're talking about the possible events that will happen long after the war in Wano. Now, before we start, I would like to apologize for the delay. I was set to publish the video this Monday, July 27, but as I was collecting panels, I also was rereading everything, and I actually forgot a few events that already happened. So I had to remake a big part of the theory, so let's get right to it. Let's start with Kaido. After the war, assuming that Kaido really gets beaten, he would probably be sent to Impel Down, where the Marines might try another execution on him. Whether it finally succeeds or not, it's totally up to Oda. But personally, I think it would be the same old story. Anyway, I'm actually thinking more about his territory. Because I'm thinking that it could really become a pirate island just like he foreshadowed. Namely, Luffy's territory. The Straw Hats are already there, and it has natural build-up to it. It's actually a bit weird that Luffy would actively start taking islands for his territory from here on out. Because I don't think that the Straw Hats would do this since it's out of Luffy's personality, and they probably might just continue on their journey and free the islands they go to from the control of the pirates or the Yonko that rule over it. Now, I know Luffy took Fishman Island from Big Mom, but it's not yet official since they haven't settled the score. And aside from that, we haven't really seen him actively taking territory, especially because of how the story is going. However, I do believe that they could use Wano as their base for a while, and here's why. The fight in Wano will obviously take a lot out of everyone fighting in the war there, and the damage Luffy takes should be reflected in his Weaver card. So additional allies in the Straw Hat Grand Fleet could come to the rescue. By doing this though, they might settle down in Wano even for just a bit and end up using it as their actual base of operations. Odin wants to open up Wano anyway, so this would be a good start to that vision coming true. There are a lot of kings and royalty in the Grand Fleet, and this could be the start of their relationship with the country of Wano, possibly under the leadership of Momonosuke and Yamato, with the help of the Scabbards, of course. A possible scenario would be that Momonosuke would end up ruling over the country, helping it get back on its feet, especially with the help of Kinemon and Denjiro, supervising everything, and would delegate establishing relations to Yamato and the other Scabbards that are fit to travel. Of course, the dog and the cat are very diplomatic themselves, so they would be perfect for this role despite their disability, which they are learning to cope up with. In the most recent chapter, Kaido mentioned that the Marines have a newfound power and is the reason that they have agreed to remove the Shichibukai system. I'm not gonna speculate about the newfound power of the government too much, but it might be strong enough to rival the ancient weapons to some degree. Because how else would we expect the world government to compete against the Yonko without the Shichibukai? It has to be powerful enough to take on the very deep crews of the Yonko. The Marines obviously have the numbers, but I think it's more of quantity over quality there, which is why I think that the newfound power should be strong enough to rival the ancient weapons. And speaking of the Shichibukai, I have really thought about what moves they would be doing. Since the system was removed, the Marines have started targeting them, and none of them were safe from this. We saw Mihawk enjoy the feeling of being chased again. Obviously, he's strong enough to handle even the admirals, but the newfound powers of the Marines might force even one of the strongest characters in the One Piece world, in Mihawk, to make moves of his own and partner up with Shanks or go to Wano or somewhere near there that's a bit private. Mihawk seems to be the type of guy that puts a lot of value in privacy, and living in a secluded place would be great for him. The castle in Kuri that Kaido destroyed might be a nice fit for him if it was rebuilt. This is not to say that Mihawk needs allies to deal with the government, but we don't know much about the new powers of the Marines, and teaming up with a crew that is capable and that he's comfortable with is definitely a possibility. Now, if Wano really does end up being a lawless zone where everyone is welcome, and Mihawk decides to settle there, when you really think about it, wouldn't that be so exciting? Mihawk fighting with the samurai, the scabbards, or even Zoro just to kill his boredom. Because really, I don't think that Mihawk has the ambition to actively oppose the government. find One Piece, or take control of the world. I think that as of right now, he was specifically put in the story so that he could hype events or characters up, and so that Zoro could have a target and a mentor. Because surpassing Mihawk has always been Zoro's goal, so fighting him at some point after the war in Wano and taking his title of the strongest swordsman in the world would seem to be a requirement before the Straw Hats directly confront the world government. Next, we have Boa Hancock. The Kuja are very strong, so they will definitely get targeted too. Amazon Lily won't be as safe as it used to be. I'm sure the Kuja can put up a great fight. I'm referencing how every single one of them knows Busoshoku and use it in their arrows. But I wouldn't be surprised if they become Ohara Part 2, seeing that the entire island could be considered as pirates. The Marines would have to put a lot more commitment to burning the whole island down, because I don't think that a buster call would be enough to take them down. Something along the lines of an admiral, pacifistas, 5 vice admirals, and 10 ships, along with a part of the new power of the Marines, might be able to do that same result, but it's going to be with a lot of resistance and difficulty. But regardless, the Marines are now a very real threat to the Kuja, so stationing their crew and situating their people near Wano or in Wano, if Wano really becomes the territory of or the base of the Straw Hats, is a real possibility. Obviously, they're allies of Luffy, whatever happens. So if the worst situation comes through, escaping to the New World, where the Straw Hats can easily help them, is a very logical move. I'm sure they have a few other allies, but realistically speaking, where are they in the One Piece world, and how many of their allies would be as strong as Luffy's crew, right? That's why seeking refuge in Luffy's territory is a very convenient way to gather the Kuja, along with all the other allies of the Straw Hat crew. Plus, it's going to be like Luffy repaying them back for what they did for him back in the Subodi arc. On to some comedic relief, and we're talking about Buggy. He should be an easy catch, and considering he even lost the giants in his crew, it would be logical for him to find some sort of safe haven, because we last saw him sending his forces to stall the marines that were already surrounding his island, and he could probably find safety by going with or joining Shanks or Luffy. Now, we all know that he's the type that doesn't want to do that, and he would very much like to maintain control. But he might finally admit he lost all the control he has in the face of the new force of the world government. Obviously, he's not the biggest priority of the Marines, seeing how he's not really the biggest threat in the world, and because they would have a pretty good idea of Buggy's abilities and actual battle strength. It's really just his crew that's the problem if they go all out. Anyway, we all know that Buggy had the Usopp disease when the Roger pirates were about to set sail for Laugh Tale. And it might be because he doesn't really have interest in the One Piece, or he could really be the type that wants to achieve this on his own. Either way, I'm sure we could all agree that he would love to have the physical treasure and live the good life rather than die for something so abstract. Next one that I'm very interested in is Edward Weevil. He is hell bent on finding Whitebeard's treasure because of his mother's direction. This is also the reason why Marco was very reluctant to join the war in Wano, because Whitebeard considered his homeland and family as his treasure, and he really didn't care about the material things in life. But Marco was protecting Whitebeard's homeland, and since Weevil is so strong, doesn't take orders from anyone except his mother, and has caused so many casualties while beating 16 of the captains that were previously under Whitebeard. I would imagine that the Marines could take priority in taking Weevil down because of his violent tendencies. Also, we haven't seen replacements for Law and Doflamingo, so it would be safe to assume that Kuma is the only remaining Shichibukai member that we haven't talked about. And I'm really curious to know if Sabo and the others were successful in taking him back from the world government. We still haven't gotten much information from the Leveling incident, and I'm expecting it to be focused more on the Revolutionary Army making a scene in the Holy Land, as well as what happened to Sabo and the others, rather than any retaliation from Charlos, the Tenryubuto that Luffy punched, or from the incident with the Alabasta Kingdom. Those are both pretty big news, but I would argue that the Revolutionary Army's officer would be bigger news than any event that includes Alabasta Kingdom for most people in the One Piece world. I think that we are being led to believe that the incident involving the Alabasta Kingdom was that someone of importance in the country was killed, but this could easily be a plot twist. I don't foresee any purpose to have members of the royal family being murdered because of the abolishment of the Shichibukai system, so there would have to be an ulterior motive to this. We also don't know if the Alabasta Kingdom had any other enemies except maybe for Wapol. So the biggest thing I'm thinking about is the possibility of people looking for clues to the ancient weapons, which could be Blackbeard since he was seen in Alabasta back then, and possibly the other Yonko. It could also be from the world government seeing how the killer hasn't been found yet. This wraps up part 1 of my theories of the events that could happen sometime after the war in Wano. And watch out tomorrow for part 2, and it's going to focus more on the Marines, the Revolutionary Army, and the other emperors. So crush the like button and comment down below what you think Buggy would do if the Marines really do pressure him. And if you love One Piece, please subscribe to the channel and watch out for part 2. Stay safe. Peace.